Ladies and gentlemen, in this episode, you are going to hear opinions. And while the podcast is endorsed by Uriah Heep, the opinions of the host and various guests do not necessarily represent the opinions of the band or any of the members past or present. With that being said, let's celebrate the music of Uriah Heep. Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and I am here with a band-endorsed, fan-based podcast, and I am loving every minute of it. You know what? It's hard to believe that we are nearly halfway through the Uriah Heep back catalog. This is their 12th album out of the 24 that they currently have out. I know by the time I get through a few more albums, they're likely to have a new one out. But for now, we're looking at the 24 that they've released, and I can't believe we're almost halfway through. In a way, it seems like I've only been doing this for a couple of months, and in another way, it seems like I can't really remember a time before I started doing this podcast, but I've really enjoyed it. I really appreciate everyone who's listened, who has shared, who has commented, sent me messages. It really means a lot to me that what I'm doing here is something that you guys are enjoying, something that you're enjoying enough to come back and hear more episodes, people that are sharing it with other people saying, hey, you should check this out. It really means a lot to me. So thank you to everyone who's done that. And of course, there are some people that have gone above and beyond and actually donated some money through their Patreon account. Just comes right out of your check every month. I can't say it's pre-taxed, although that would be really cool if we could make Patreon a pre-tax thing, at least in the States. But I don't have the power to do that. What I do have the power to do is to thank the folks coming in at the $5 Easy Living tier. We have Kenny Wymore and Brad D. And next up at the $3 The Wizard tier, we have Peter Voss, Goran Eriksson, Frank Thielgaard Mortensen, and our newest patron, William Rose. Thank you, William, and welcome. And then at the $1 Traveler in Time tier, we have the Forever Frozen in Time Airtight Gravesite. Thank you all very, very much. It's really been nice talking to you guys when you write in. And I really, really appreciate the going that extra mile and donating some funds to the show. It does help me out greatly. And there are the folks that have helped out on Podbean and iTunes, leaving reviews, leaving notes. I did see that on Stitcher, I did find where you could like podcasts, but I still have not found a place where you can leave like any feedback or review or anything like that. If you guys know of a place that you can do that on Stitcher, please let me know. I know a lot of people listen there. And of course, I want to thank my graphic artist, Scott Lazinski, and my friends at Audionamics, who I will not do a podcast without IDC, their instant dialogue cleaner. And of course, my buddy Dave White, the very director of Uriah Heep social media. He's the one that shares the posts on Facebook and Twitter, and really appreciate how early he gets up and listens to the show and does that. That's really cool. In fact, I have to say, I have to apologize to Dave because I was not seeing his shares for the longest time. It would show me that he shared the post, but I couldn't find it to go say, hey, thanks for doing that or whatever. And it wasn't until I split off the Uriah Heep profile into a separate profile on Facebook with that new thing that they're doing that I was actually able to go in and see the individual posts. It would just take me to like the main page, but it wouldn't put me in contact with the actual post I was searching for. So thank you, Dave, for all the posts that I didn't like or didn't say thank you. Thank you. It is very much appreciated, and I hope that you are well rested as you're listening to today's episode, my friend. So really quick, too, I want to mention all of my friends at the Deep Dive Podcast Network. Over at the Deep Purple Podcast, we have Nate and John. At Skinnerd Reconsidered, we have The Simple Man. At T-Bone's Prime Cuts on the other side, we have Terry T-Bone Mathley. Over at Black Sabbath's podcast, Sabbath Bloody Podcast, we have Rye. Over at in the lap of the pods, we have Paul, Joe, and David. And then at Hawk Binge, we have Andy and Matt. And at Maiden A to Z, or A to Z if you live in Europe, Eric and Jonathan. Thank you guys all for the hard work that you do on your podcast. It's an amazing network to be a part of. And every week when I read these, I'm like, God, this is such a cool group of people. Also in the podcast world, we've got my buddy Brandon over at Metallicast. Great show. And then don't forget to check out Ace on Music. He is Uriah Heep's manager, as well as Thin Lizzy and several other bands. And you can check him out on Stitcher and YouTube. Ace on Music is such a great show because it really gives sight into a lot of different aspects of the music industry. And I really enjoy listening to that because I realize how much I don't know by hearing the perspectives of people that live that side of the business in and out every day. I've not been in a touring band or anything like that. So I've done short little out of town gigs and stuff, but I've never really been in a touring band, let alone some band that's toured the world. So it's really interesting to hear the insights and the ins and outs of how things get put together, how things like box sets get made and all that stuff. It's really fascinating stuff. So check that out. And of course, my friend Allegra at gottahear'emall.com, which is just very well researched information about the touring lives of bands like Deep Purple, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and so many other valuable articles and things that she writes up, all very well researched and very well thought out. Great stuff. It's really amazing to have connected with such a fantastic group of people that really believe in what they do, that have really dug hard and, do their best to give great information, honest opinions, find guests and things. It's pretty fascinating. So kudos to everybody out there. Keep doing what you're doing because I and many other people enjoy it all. So I want to get into today's song, and this one is called Cheater. And that, I'm not going to guess what that means because it could be a lot of things. Obviously, the assumption is someone who cheats in a relationship. Is that the case? Is that what this song is about? We'll find out right now. Here is Cheater by Uriah Heep, a bonus track from the album Fallen Angel. It's really amazing because a couple things strike me right off the bat. First is that this is a similar setup that we've seen very consistently through this album. A short intro, and then I'm going to guess that we're going to hear that synth part again later in the song, maybe underneath a solo, or maybe that will be the solo. But then the backing vocals covering the title or chorus of the song with John Lawton singing lines in between. It's really interesting because the album has been fairly consistent at doing that, yet it works for everything that we've heard. It's quite fascinating to me because that should really be boring. That should just be stale by now. Like, just use a different arrangement. But I have to say, and maybe it's because I'm not listening to the album consecutively right now, all of it in one sitting, that it doesn't bother me or I'm not tired of hearing it. Because the songs are so spaced apart. So that is possible. If I were to sit down and just listen to the album on the whole, now knowing that that's the setup for the bulk of the album, that might get old. It might not. I don't know. But I do find it fascinating. I love the intro. I think it's very well balanced. I think the sound recording that we're hearing is good. The mix of it is really good so far. But it's an interesting song to start off with because that opening is not really something you would expect. It's a little more intricate. It goes kind of a little out of the scope of what your brain is expecting the next notes to be, which I like. I think that's very innovative when we find a way to get out of those standards that we just become accustomed to when we're writing. And to say, you know what, I'm not going to do this chord progression. I'm going to take that last chord and I'm going to go out in left field and do something completely different. And then I'm going to tie it all back together. Like, that kind of writing is really interesting to me. So well done so far.
Can't hide your sin. Cheater. Don't ask me how I know. Cheater. I guess it's time for you to
Well, I don't know if that drum lick was a throwback to Rainbow Demon or not, but it certainly reminded me of that part right before the stop. Yeah, really cool. I like how Lawton's singing the lines in between the backing vocals, but it sounds like he's also singing with the backing vocals just a little bit louder than they are. But the mix is fantastic. I really like the sound of the song. It has a really good feel to it. Seems a little bit happy, in a way. The backing vocals just going up in pitch like that just seem a little bit almost excited, but that's just my perception of the pitch change there because it didn't go down. I guess that's part of what I'm talking about when I say how they find a way to do things and then just change something that makes it unique and interesting. And most bands, I would think, would go down in register for those vocals instead of up, which makes it, a little more excitable or happy. But then again, that could just be the perception. The concept could be we're going to pretend we're feeling this way because, when we find out something bad, you put your brave face on. It could be anything. There could be any reason why they did that. But it sounds really good. And that's the main point. That's all that really matters at the end of the day.
I'm tired of chasing shadows, so elusive in the night, and your empty words that leave me high and dry. Now the curtain's finally fallen on this fantasy affair. You've hurt me for the last time with your lies. Oh yeah.
So I'm hearing what sounds like some really nice picking in the background from the guitars. That's really adding a nice little flavor to the song and kind of keeping that rhythm moving along as well. You've also got that really gentle synthesizer that's playing in the background, and it's not intrusive at all. It sounds really good. It's just a mild synth, but a very powerful one at the same time. And I like the fact that it's just gently laying sort of in the background behind the vocal very nicely. Bass playing is really good. Drums are solid. Drums are pretty simple on this song so far. A couple of nice fills, but it's been pretty straightforward for Lee Kerslake. But just a nice song. There's a couple of really nice bass notes in there that are just popping out in the section of the song. I really like that. Is it me though, or does the sound all of a sudden seem a little empty now that synth is gone? Like there's nothing there except for the acoustic guitar strumming to kind of fill in that space. So it seems a little bit thin all of a sudden. I mean, the sound is still good, but it just seems like it's a little bit, like when you do a song live and everybody just stops playing except for the drummer and the singer and they're just trying to get the crowd to sing, like that kind of sudden emptiness, not to that extreme, of course, but just that sort of, change in feeling where all of a sudden we've lost some instrumentation and it just seems kind of empty and weird now. I don't really know why that would be.
The voices in the wind I heard kept telling me to run, whispering a warning to my heart. And the voices deep as thunder tried to speak of things to come. I was blinded then, but now I see the light. Oh, no.
There's not a lot of change in this song. It's very linear. It's almost like, okay, we're going to put this part in here now, and we're going to put that part again a couple parts later. It's not very moving as far as change goes. It's very solid. It plays very well. I like the sound of the acoustic guitars, the way that they're playing. But as far as, the kind of changes that you expect from Uriah Heep, as we've seen a lot on this album, they're really in a different direction than they have been in the past. And it's certainly something that has been consistent on this album. But I feel like this song is a little more So, it like takes on the qualities that the other songs have where they're fairly straightforward. And this is, let's be even more straightforward and really only have a couple of different kind of parts. And we'll just keep repeating them. We'll change out the lyrics, but pretty much musically, it's a very simple and a little on the repetitive side. Well, I called it at the beginning of the song. I said that synth part would probably return possibly as a solo, and there it is. And it's okay. It sounds good. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the song ends this way, whether it be with a fade out or an ending. But I have a feeling we're going to return to that synthesizer repeating again. That would be a great way to end the song, though, because it's a great lick. It's very unexpected in where it goes. And that could easily be something that it just fades out with. That could be something that you could do in concert and just jam around it. You could have done that in the 70s for a good 20 minutes. And I don't think they did, but it's certainly something that could have been done. And I think it's nice, though. It sounds really good, but it's just kind of predictable. Now we're going to go back into that chorus part again. And that was pretty expected, but the solo's nice because it just sounds good. It's very gentle. It's very simple. Yet it has that powerful sound to it. It's really a strange thing to have that gentleness and power at the same time. But the instruments certainly kind of back off and give it room to take that space, which is really nice. I mean, this is a band where, regardless of the repetition, everyone's playing together. They're very tight. They sound really good. You kind of feel that unity on this album. And I mean, they've been playing together for 3 albums now. You would hope it would be there. And it certainly is. It feels very cohesive, very one unit together to me. So this part is really nice, right? You've got the drums are picking it up a little bit. There's some really cool fills he played in there. You got the bass with the notes that pop out here and there a bit. I really love the bass groove, by the way. I don't think I mentioned that earlier. You've got the guitars, the acoustic guitars that are just keeping things moving along very nicely. I love that strumming. And then you've got the return of the synth coming back. This really feels more full now. I like this part better. I really do have to say, though, I like the song. I like the way the backing vocals sound. I like that they went up instead of down, which I had expected. The vocals just sound phenomenal, too. Just that combination of pitches sounds so good together. And it really is a good song. I mean, it's simple. It's repetitive, yes. But is it a good song? Yes, I think so. Yeah, I really love that fade out. I think it could have been a little bit longer, but I think what they did was fine. This ending is one that really kind of speaks to what I was saying earlier. I think that this is a song that could have gone on for a while as a jam if you wanted it to. Maybe one of those acoustic guitars would have turned into like an extended guitar solo. I think the song certainly gives the room for that. It's got a good beat to it. and it's got that nice, synthesizer melody behind it. I think they could have done that and been just fine. Certainly one that you could pull off in concert doing the same thing, just, playing for a long time, turning it into a jam, letting it get crazy. It's a great bass and drum groove. I love those poppy notes on the bass when they cut through. So there's a lot of good things about this song, I have to say. And I think it's interesting too that through the end section, they did not raise the pitch on the backing vocals at all. It just stayed in that one pitch, just repeating Cheater over and over. Very cool though. Very cool. I love the sound of the song. I love the feel of it. It kind of goes to some of the other songs I've talked about, that have that sort of, cool autumn air feel to it. And thinking about songs like, I can't think of which ones off the top of my head, but we've gone over some of them, and I think actually even going back to the last album when we're talking about like Illusion, for example, just that crisp autumn air. I think this could have that feeling if I let myself go in that direction. But it's a good song. I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys did too, and I hope you enjoyed our Monday show, guys. We're through the first show of the week. We got 3 more to go, and only 1 more for the John Lawton era on Fallen Angel. Or do we? That remains to be seen. So let's get to our episode tomorrow. We'll find out what's happening, what's going on as we end season 12. Thank you guys for joining me. I hope that you have a wonderful day. Go do something fun. Get your week started off right. Chat with you guys tomorrow for another song on the Magicians Podcast. Cheers. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magicians Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show. And thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!